By 2025, there will be more internet users in rural India than in urban India, according to an IAMAI Kantar report. And even though internet penetration in urban India is twice that of rural areas, the usership in rural regions is growing at a faster rate on a year-on-year basis. While internet users grew by 4% in urban India, reaching 323 million users, 67% of the urban population in 2020, digital adoption continues to be propelled by rural India, clocking a 13% growth to 299 million internet users. 31% of rural population over the past year. It's quite clear that India's digital ecosystem will need to evolve to address the specific needs of this emerging market, and regional language voice plus video will be the preferred interface for this new digital ecosystem or the next 600 million internet users in India. In fact, many startups have already identified the gaps and recognized the opportunity as they build platforms that are simplifying lives across rural India in Tier 2, Tier 3 towns and beyond as they unlock the potential of this large user base. Today, we put the spotlight on 3 high-velocity verticals where new-age businesses are building for Bharat as they disrupt the status quo. Social commerce or community-based e-commerce, education for mobile-first regional language internet users, and last-mile public transportation. Very, very diverse businesses, all of them. Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shireen Bhan. Joining me now to talk about their tryst with Bharat are Mohit Dubey, the co-founder and CEO of Chalo, Angad Kikla, the co-founder of City Mall, and Karanveer Singh, the founder and CEO of Pariksha. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Karanveer, let me start by asking you about Pariksha. It is an edtech startup founded in 2015, which essentially focuses on providing regional language services. Take me through why you decided to do Pariksha, and over the last several years that you've been around, what have been the big changes that you've seen?
So I think Genesis, thank you. First of all, thank you, Shireen. Thank you for inviting me here. I think the genesis of Pariksha goes way back to my childhood. I was born in a village, and my father was in the army. So throughout his service period, we were stationed in smaller towns and cities. And I realized there was a huge, disadvantageous position between urban and rural students. So I had the fortune of studying in urban cities, and I had the fortune of studying in smaller towns. So then I met my co-founders, and we realized that there was a huge divide between urban and rural students. So the primary objective of launching Pariksha was to bridge this gap, where we wanted to create a level playing field where students who are living in rural part of our country, who are more well-versed with vernacular language, can get the same opportunity, or at least a chance to the same opportunity. That was the idea behind starting Pariksha. What we have seen in last 7 years is that the education and especially the technology adoption in the rural country has increased. And in last 2 years, we have seen a massive adoption of not just education technology, but technology across the board. People today are more comfortable studying online. Whether it is students or whether it is education institutions, both of them, they've realized that a very affordable and outcome-based education can be delivered online.
Well, yes, that is right. And you're being able to provide education across 8 different languages, and you're operating across 16 different states at this point. And I completely agree with you. I grew up on Air Force bases across the country, and there is such a big difference between the kind of education that you can access in smaller towns versus the education that you can access in larger cities and our metros. But Mohit, let me talk to you about the Chalo story, because you started that in 2014. And for the benefit of our viewers, Chalo is essentially a bus transit platform which provides an app-based solution with live bus tracking, ticketing, and contactless payments. The same question to you to start with, Mohit. I mean, this is a tough business. Why did you decide to go the Chalo way?
Shireen, thank you for hosting us here. I was building Carvale and then Cartrade for more than a decade. And cars, basically 3% people in India own a car, and another 2-3% people can afford a cab. And therefore, while they would be important, right, but cars are the tiny part of the population. And our cities are breaking on the edges with congestion, pollution, and so on and so forth. And we all know, right, it's so easy to travel inter-country, inter-city, but we still have not solved how do we move within the city. And that's what really the inspiration to build Chalo. So many people in India, 200 million people every day come out of their house and take a bus. And have a poor experience taking buses in many ways, and maybe we'll talk about it. And we wanted to really solve the daily commute. And the way to solve daily commute is to really solve buses. And We live in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and we can take a metro. But metro is just 1% of the population that they serve. 48% people actually take buses. And that's what we thought about, solving actually.
Yeah, absolutely. But, take me through the decision to focus on cities like Jabalpur, Udupi, Indore, Bhopal, Nagpur, Meerut, Mathura. Why did you decide that that is where you wanted to focus on?
So, out of the 500,000 buses in this country, the government runs only 1.5 lakh buses. Rest of the buses, 75% of all buses are actually run by small private operators. In all of these cities, from Lucknow to Kanpur to Udupi, Kochi, even Kolkata for that matter, they're private operators, small operators with 2 or 3 buses each. They're running buses and they need the help. They run buses with zero technology, no digitization, no network-wide planning, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we focus on these cities. India lives in these cities, right? You yourself just talked about how these cities are really evolving and changing. And that's what we need to go and solve for. And again, what you build for Indore, Bhopal is also relevant for Bombay and Delhi, and we will do all of these things by and by. But yes, we wanted to focusing on smaller cities first here.
Well, that is the reason why the three of you are on this program, because that's exactly what we want to focus on, is solving for Bharat. But let me bring Angad into the conversation. Angad, you're the newest kid on the block, so to speak, because you founded City Mall only in 2019. And the aim and the vision is to create India's largest chain of virtual stores on WhatsApp. How do you intend going about that?
Sure. So Shireen, like Mohit and Karan, we just mentioned, there's a huge opportunity when it comes to consumers living in rural and small town India. What's sort of unique and different about our model is, we have somebody called as community leaders. And these people, they are sort of micro influencers in the respective, communities that they live in. Think about a community leader like a housewife or a blue-collared worker, barber, tailor. And they bring a huge amount of, very strong layer of trust that actually brings these consumers who are highly offline buyers into, coming and transacting online. The other very important, thing that these community leaders do for us is that they are last mile logistics partners for us. So as a platform, we just deliver to these community leaders, and then consumers either come and pick it up from them, or they go and do the last mile delivery. And the area where WhatsApp plays a key role is that a lot of the interaction between the community leaders and end consumers is done over WhatsApp. So to a consumer, WhatsApp is a channel where they can discover product, identify new price points, new brands, etc., before they go and transact on the mobile app. And that's our play.
That is your play, and like we were talking to Karanveer and Mohit, you're operating in cities and towns like Rewari, Jhajjar, Sonipat, Panipat, and Saharanpur. But Karanveer, I want to come back to you and address this issue. When we think about some of the cities that I just named, there are preconceived ideas and preconceived notions of what it will actually take to solve for those cities. What has been your experience? What are the preconceived notions that need to be thrown out of the window? What are the emerging trends that you're focusing on, that you're capitalizing on as you service this market?
So Shireen, I'm glad you asked this. I remember when we were starting, there were a lot of assumptions about this market, that probably the purchasing power is not very high in rural part of our country. The lifetime value of a customer is not very high. It is difficult to acquire these. But trust me, this is a very aspirational market. The selective purchasing power is very, very high in Bharat. Okay, probably people living in rural part of our country, they precisely know where to spend their money. Anything that can add value to their life, they'll spend an exorbitant amount of money. And let me give you some examples. The maximum spend on buying gold in a country is in rural part of our country, not in the urban part of our country, right? So when we started, we were, even we were a little skeptical as to whether this market will pay or not. But we were surprised with the appetite of this market to pay exorbitant amount of money. From 10 rupee a month in 2018, 10 rupee a month subscription in 2018 to 30,000 rupees for a year's program is something that we have scaled. That's one thing. Second is, there are very, very few companies that are catering to or focusing at this market. So it is comparatively easier to acquire and serve these customers because not many people are fighting for their mind share or wallet share.
Well, that's an important point that you make, but look at that number that you've given us, from 10 rupees a month to 30,000 rupees a year. That's what you're being able to do by way of subscriptions. But Mohit, to the point that Karanveer was making, that because it isn't as fiercely competitive as a Delhi or a Bombay or the metros, that the cost of acquisition is probably lower and the cost of retention is probably lower, hence leading to less cash burn. What's the experience been like for you? And, more importantly, what are the emerging trends that startups who are looking at addressing this market should take note of?
Yeah, so very interesting. First of all, in these markets, the cost of traveling in a bus typically is less than 2 rupees per kilometer. Now think of a shared auto as 10 rupees. Think of a taxi is 30 rupees. A normal auto would be 20 rupees. Everything is like multiple time expensive. And therefore buses are so much more relevant for everybody. In all of these markets, women, they come out of the house and go to their workplace, or students go take the buses for their college and schools. It's super, super relevant. And one other thing that we saw is that in a city like Indore or Bhopal or Jabalpur, even Udupi, the digital adoption was so fast. Within 3 to 6 months of launching a digital payment system in the buses, we could see 45% people traveling in the buses adopting it. People will take an NFC-enabled card and tap to pay in less than 1 second and buy their ticket. And similarly for the app, I remember that when we launched our app in Indore for students to buy a mobile pass for the month, 3 times more passes were sold actually than what they were doing earlier. So people have adopted digital so very well, and therefore you see relevance of it in all these companies that we're talking about here. And other thing I want to tell you is that, while buses are the largest category in most of these markets, we still do not have enough buses. And the good thing is each of these cities are adding more and more buses. Indore just went from 300 buses to 600 buses in less than 1 year. Bhopal went from another 300 buses to close to maybe 700 buses, and we see this trend happening in many other places, be it Patna in Bihar, Ranchi is planning for more buses. So what's really interesting is cities are not only growing digitally, but they're also now building the infrastructure, which is what we should have been doing even in our larger cities, in metros actually. So, and which we are yet to see them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Public infrastructure, and especially when we talk about transportation, if you have good public infrastructure, it would reduce the congestion of private traffic on roads, and that is what we're dealing with in our city. So it's good to hear what you're telling us, that the emphasis and the focus, at least as far as smaller cities is concerned, is on building good public transportation. Angad, let me come to you now and ask you about what the experience has been. You've only been in business since 2019. What are you seeing in terms of the paying capacity, in terms of digital adoption? What have been the big learnings for you?
Sure. So Shireen, 2 big learnings actually since we started executing. Firstly, the segment that we focus in, our consumers are typically coming from, low to mid-income consumer groups. So they are almost always short of wallet balances, and which means that they think very, very deeply before, spending any amount of money. A very peculiar characteristic of this behavior of this market is these consumers prefer, low ticket sizes and high frequency of purchases because they're always low on wallet balances. So low ticket sizes, high frequency is a very strong behavior that we see that these end consumers exhibit, which is actually very different from the behavior that consumers living in metro and tier 1 towns exhibit, which is much higher ticket sizes. And that's one of the key reasons why the traditional e-commerce companies have failed to penetrate into these consumer groups, because the supply chains are designed for much higher ticket sizes, and hence there's a need for a supply chain distribution innovation to get these consumers to sort of make the logistics work. The second big difference that we see, Shireen, is the fact that a lot of these consumers are traditionally offline buyers. Now moving them from being of much higher offline buying behavior, which requires social proof, which requires sort of trust, etc., and moving them to online is like a significant bigger leap for them, and hence there's a need for a very strong social assistance as well as social trust to bring these consumers into an online mode. And these are the two big, macros that we see. One is, low ticket size, high frequency kind of a behavior, and other is a very strong need for sort of trust and assistance to get them to, transact online. And, few of the things that you mentioned, which is voice, which is video, etc., helps do all of those.
Yeah, I hope people are watching this program. If they're interested in being able to tap this opportunity, this is some real, voices from the ground telling you what is going on in that market. But Mohit, I want to address the issue of funding. And, I'm looking at how much money you've raised, $62 million with $40 million in Series C in October of 2021. So, clearly, investors now buying this story.
Yeah, Shireen, we raised this round at the back of the COVID when buses had come to a halt, cities were completely locked. But the good thing is, as cities got unlocked, people who were taking buses came back to buses. These were not the people who go and buy a second-hand car or a new two-wheeler. These are the people who had to go back to their factories, they had to go back to their government offices, they had to go back and open their shops. And while students are yet to come back to the colleges, but these are the people, these are people who are running our economy, and buses are non-discretionary to India's economy and city's economy. And that's true for India, and that's true for Bangkok and Manila and Jakarta and Cairo, right? So many emerging markets where this would be relevant actually. And everybody would understand that while we would have a COVID disruption and a slight bump, for a couple of months, but this is, buses are going to be here and they're so much more fundamental. And I'll tell you one more thing, anecdotally, that for the first lockdown, it took us 9 months to come back to our pre-COVID level of, say, gross ticketing value, number of buses, and so on and so forth. But after the second lockdown, it took us 3 months to come back to the same level. And Chalo has been growing like a 40% month on month, September to October to November, and I see numbers for December now. We've been literally growing 30 to 40% every month. And I hope, good investors don't miss out on this one.
Well, clearly, some investors have not missed out on this opportunity. And I like what you said, that buses are not discretionary, at least certainly not in markets like ours or across many emerging markets. But Karanveer, I want to ask you as well. I mean, you've managed to raise $3 million. Is it easier now to take this story to investors, to pitch the story to investors? And more importantly, what does this now mean in terms of your growth plans?
So I think investors have realized that a lot of value can be generated in the rural part of our country. Bharat, they've seen some success stories. Chalo is there, City Mall is there. So any company that is solving a fundamentally large problem where they are able to show to the investors that there's a great product market fit, I think they should not have any challenge. We have gotten very good response. I remember when I went out to raise capital the first time, we received 4 term sheets. And at that time, we could negotiate, and we had the luxury of choosing our investors. Even today, we are getting very good response from the investor community. Very soon, things work out. Very soon, we'll be sharing some good news with you. But investors have become very, very optimistic about the opportunity in Bharat.
So, how soon will you be sharing that good news with us?
So, allow me to come back to you. Give us, a couple of weeks.
Okay, with the promise that you will break that story first here on CNBC TV 18 on Young Turks. But we wish you the very best of luck with that, Karan. Angad, let me talk to you about growth and what the strategy is now from where you are today. I mean, what's lined up?
Sure. So we're seeing very, very strong traction, Shireen, and we are well capitalized, given the number of rounds that we've raised this year. So our business is growing at about 35-40% month on month, and we are seeing very strong product market fit. We're currently in about 15 districts in India, and in the next 12 to 18 months, our strategy has 2 key levers. One is to sort of expand geographically, which is expand from current 15 districts to about 65-70 districts by March 23. And other is to sort of go deeper in the current categories that we are already in. So we've already seen a strong uptick in our essential categories, which is grocery and FMCG products, and the non-essential categories of fashion, electronics, etc., are also seeing good traction. So our strategy going forward is to sort of go deeper in our existing categories and grow geographically from current 15 districts to about 70 districts.
Okay, so go deep before you go wider. That's the strategy that you're taking forward at this point in time, Angad. But gentlemen, I want to end by getting closing comments from each of you. And Mohit, I'll start by asking you. We talked about the opportunities, and clearly there is plenty of headroom for further growth, and that is what you're betting on. But what do you believe startups need to be mindful of? Share with us some of your lessons, some of the mistakes made previously. If there were to be a course correction, what would you focus on?
Yeah, so two things I would say. Number one is founders start a company, to change the world, to make a difference. And that's what, prompted us to start something. And then, they build it for something for 6 months, 1 year, and they get funded. There is a Series A happen, Series B happen. And then they start changing different kind of metrics, right? Not necessarily the consumer metrics, not necessarily the metrics of the change the world, but they start changing a GTV or some contribution margin or something else, which may not obviously the best thing to do. And I'm saying it literally here as we all would have gone through it. Karan would know it, and so that's one. It's to focus on what we really started this company for, right? The vision. For example, Chalo got formed to solve daily commute. Chalo is formed to say, let's improve 100 million lives every day. And that's what we want to go and do it, right? And not get distracted. I think second thing is we often think small at times. We might start with Bharat, but I think this is relevant for everywhere. This is relevant, as I said, for multiple countries, for multiple emerging markets. Let's really build, not a unicorn, but a Deca unicorn or center unicorn, whatever it takes. We can build, $100 billion coming from this country. And let's go and build that, and not stop until we have done that. Actually, I started Carvale and I thought not as big as I could have, and I think Chalo is going to deliver billions of rides every day.
I have to say more power to you and your team, and we do hope that you can take the Chalo story global as well. And yes, we've seen dozens of unicorns in 2021, and may that tribe continue to grow. But Karan, what's on the horizon as far as growth is concerned, as well as any learnings that you'd like to leave us with?
Absolutely. So I think all the founders, they need to look at whether they are solving a fundamental problem or not. And it is very imperative that you understand your market well. So I want to add to what Angad has said, that if you look at Bharat market primarily has 5 challenges that any online or any internet-based company has to solve. First is trust. Second is credibility. Third is you have to enable offline payment. Fourth is internet might not be very seamless at all the places. And fifth is you have to have a touch and feel factor built into your business model. So a business model that might work for India might not work for Bharat. So you have to pay very close attention to your target market, your customers, to understand them better. As far as growth is concerned, Shireen, we are growing really fast. In a very small span of time, we have scaled our business. Today, we serve close to 4 million users across, as you rightly said, 16 states and 8 different languages. We believe that the product and the experience that we have built is relevant not just for our country, but adjoining countries as well. For instance, if you look at Bangladesh, if you look at growing countries like Indonesia, they have the same problem that we face as far as the rural part of our country is concerned. There are a lot of companies that are solving the urban problem, but there are very few companies that are looking at solving this deep-rooted rural problem. And in any developing country across the world, the kind of product and experiences that we are building, they are relevant. So opportunity within our country is immense. I agree with what Mohit has said, that there's a huge opportunity to not just build a billion, but multi-billion-dollar companies. So I think, and I keep saying this to my investors and everybody else, that Bharat has the potential to bring multiple unicorns. So the opportunity is immense.
Angad, let me ask you, do you also have plans to take City Mall global?
So not anytime soon, Shireen. I think the Bharat market is quite deep, and we've just started, and we can build, and we are operating in an extremely large category, which is retail. So not anytime soon, but never say never.
Never say never. And we wish the three of you the very best of luck. Thanks so much for joining us here on Young Turks and sharing your insights, your stories, your journey, as well as your growth plans with us. We wish you all the very best of luck. We will take a break here on Young Turks. Don't go anywhere. We're right back with you on CNBC TV 18 with a lot more.